Hi, I am Roberto, and let's talk now about self-primacy. And let's focus on how you can build your own path towards self-improvement and how you can actually improve that path yourself. Specifically, I want to talk what in behavioral science is known by the term behavior change techniques. But I do not just want you to think of them as techniques, but actually let's discuss them with two different terms: techniques, but also strategies. And this is important because even in science, this terminology is even a bit disputed right now. So for example, behavior change techniques are also known as behavior change strategies and sometimes also as behavior change methods. But leaving that discussion aside, what's important here is not the exact definition or the term that we use. What's important is the idea behind it. And I will mention the definition that exists in behavioral science and we can start from there. And I will paraphrase a bit, but the definition is this. A behavior change technique is an observable, replicable, and irreducible component that is designed to regulate behavior. Okay? But remember, the definition is not that important. Let's focus on the idea and let's divide that idea between what's a technique and what is a strategy. But why are we making this difference? First, because when we think about self-improvement, especially as a process, the process is actually about trying out things, then learning from that, and then just trying to adapt or to change what you tried the first time and simply try again. So in that process, if you think about it, what you are changing throughout the learning stages and what level of detail you change is important. So in this case, you can either change a technique, you can change a strategy. But let's define what we're all actually talking about. And let's try to be as clear as possible in how we distinguish them. So first, a strategy, you can think of a strategy as a general plan of action. It's a plan, of course, with a specific goal. It has a specific aim. On the other hand, a technique, let's define it as a way of carrying out a specific task or a specific procedure. So if you think about it like that, let's go back and think, okay, a self-improvement strategy could actually include many tasks, could actually include many procedures. And those specific tasks can be performed in many different ways. Those are the techniques. So let's talk about some examples to maybe try and make this a bit more clear. For instance, when the aim is to increase motivation, a common and widely used and recommended strategy is goal setting. But no matter what, I'm sure most of us have probably experienced a failure in a strategy of goal setting. So we set a goal and somehow it did not work or it did not get us where we wanted, at least in terms of motivation. And what we most recognize here is that the failure of a strategy does not always mean that the strategy itself was entirely useless. Sure, it could be the case, but I think more often it's really not. And a better question when that happens, let's say in this example, is when the strategy fails, we can just ask ourselves, okay, what kind of goal setting techniques did we actually try, or how did we pull them off? Maybe it was something that we could improve the next time, even just repeating the same strategy, repeating the same techniques. And you know, that's already a big difference between thinking of something as large as a plan of action, a strategy, and something as specific in the way we did it, a technique. But let's use another example. Let's say that when the aim is to achieve physical relaxation or to be calm, as most of us say, a common and highly recommended strategy is conscious breathing control. But again, just like goal setting, there are many ways to do a conscious control of our own breath, of our own breathing rhythm. And that's simply saying that there are many techniques to do so. Sure, some of them are probably better, some of them are just better to us, or some of them might be better for us to follow because of our own preferences or just our own personality. But that's a big difference. The strategy is a general plan of action like we have said, and the techniques is really what we're trying and how we're trying it. So the point here is not to go over these two examples in detail, but let's just focus, as we have said, in this distinction between strategy and technique. And let's talk now about, let's say, some outside the box examples, some more related examples to behavior change. If you think about the term of strategy, and we think about sports, the strategy, let's say, of a team in any sports, you can say, okay, it's either go defensive or go offensive, and that's the general strategy. But if you think also, let's say, in terms of a specific athlete, the strategy can be, okay, if I have a chance to score, I will always try to do it with as much strength as possible, or I will try to be as precise as I can, and that's kind of the general strategy. But the technique of how they do that, then that's really a bit more specific. And no matter what, if it's a team or an individual, it always actually comes down to the techniques that a specific individual, specific tasks are performed. And another example, maybe outside sports, let's think about a business presentation. If in a business presentation the aim is, for example, to increase the client's awareness about how important your services are, then the strategy, of course, is to show the value of your product. But there are many ways to do that. There are many techniques. One could be that you talk about a specific case, a scenario that really shows what you're doing is important. And another technique, which you could also do both, is that you present data about what your product's successes have been in the past. So you see, it is a bit of a difference when you think about the strategy and techniques that are part of that strategy. And you can think of that and get examples from many kinds of human activities. And as I said, the importance is that we learn to distinguish between these two concepts. So just think, in your self-improvement journey, you will have to learn and practice different strategies. And more importantly, it's going to apply the same way to techniques. You will have to practice, but more importantly, you will actually have to learn to master specific techniques. So there is no one way to do goal setting. There's no one way to do breathing control or any other kind of strategy. You have to find the techniques that fit you the most or the better, or that make you feel like you have more control over them. So in this case, as I said, this distinction between techniques and strategies is not something that science is always agreeing on, but it's something that for you and for this kind of trying on and testing will be important to decide that sometimes you need to change larger things, larger strategies. Sometimes you need to just try and get better at the techniques that you are performing. So as I said, you can always find these kind of examples in books. You can just talk to somebody about how they are doing things, and you just have basically a lot of sources on which you can start to identify techniques that work for you. And in the end, I really hope this idea helps you. I hope this video has helped you understand a bit better how to engage with behavior change, how to change these little blocks that are important to really build a path towards self-improvement. And remember, that relates a lot to what this channel is about. It's about learning, it's about practicing, it's about mastering, and also about sharing techniques and strategies to exert control over your own behavior. So that is what self-primacy stands for. Finally, as usual, if you want to support and promote this kind of mindset, please help me by liking the video, please subscribe to the channel, and also follow me on social media. So thank you so much, and see you next time.